15 minutes at the end of their talk to talk about some of the myths of publishing, at least as I believe the myths of publishing. But if you can think up myths of publishing that you want to see addressed, maybe in a future workshop, please write those down and let me know, because I'd like your suggestions so that I can rebut some of the many, many myths. Okay, the first one is anyone who has time can write a book. The numbers are not exact. There's no actual statistic that measures how many people have conceptualized whether or not they could be an author. But about 90% of people who consider writing a book don't ever even get to the starting line. And about 90% of the people who do get to the starting line and think they can write a book never finish the book because they get lost somewhere in the process. It's not a time issue. They think of it, they start to do it, they don't know what they're doing, they give up. And then 90% of professional writers, that I know at least, have lives that are far busier than average. There are psychologists and musicians and actors and authors, speakers, people from every walk of life who have full-time jobs and have families and have everything else, and yet they manage to set aside the time and do it. Sometimes the very busiest people are the ones who are writing books. And so a lot of times online, I've gotten the criticism, well, sure, if I had time to burn, I could write a book too. Well, I'm sorry, that's probably not true. The odds are vanishingly small that time is just the issue on that. Okay. If you can write a good paragraph, you can write a good book. No. And I was one of the people that believed the myth. My father is an English instructor for 25 years, and I grew up being corrected in every aspect of grammar, punctuation, everything, so that I could speak very well, I could write very clearly. And I thought, I am going to be a rockin' writer someday. I'm going to be so awesome. And I always thought, I'm going to write when there's time. Well, that first publishing myth, there isn't ever time. All the people that write books write them because they took the time or made the time. There are also many layers of writing skill that have nothing to do with whether or not you can string together a good paragraph. You can string together a good paragraph, some good sentences. You can glue together thousands of good paragraphs. That does not make a good book. And not all writing uses the same form of skill. So some of the forms of skill, other than just grammar and vocabulary, are, Daniel, in fiction, you have the skill of plotting or telling the good story. A lot of people have those breakfast dishes stories and that have absolutely no plot, and those can be engrossing for short periods of time, but that does not necessarily make a good book. There is pacing. Does something happen from time to time, or do you have something happen in the 3rd chapter and the 20th chapter, and everything else in between is people sitting together talking to each other at a table? That is not good pacing. That is something I had no clue even was an issue before I started attempting to write a book, because I didn't have to worry about pacing when I wrote an essay, a college paper, or even a short story as much. There is flow and construction.